Shalom. This is Yair Debdi speaking to you from the land of Israel. We are continuing our study of the tribes of Israel. We are, to remind you, we're going very briefly through the characteristics of each and every one of them. Just giving you a few major points which are interesting, worth knowing. God willing, we will go through each and every one again in more depth. We've already been through a few of them in the past, but we will do it again because there are always new things coming up, new insights occurring to us, new perspectives that are relevant, worth knowing about, and the subject itself is worth revising. So we are discussing the 12 tribes of Israel. In a previous talk we discussed the first six in our quorum. The way we counted them were Yehuda, that is Judah, and then came Issachar, and Zebulun, and Reuben, and Simeon, and Gad, and Levi. But we'll go through Levi again because it's worth doing so. And now we are going through 8 tribes. So you may ask, how can we go through 8 tribes? Because 6 and 8 give us 14. Well, that's quite easily answered because altogether there are 12 tribes. There are 12 tribes, but Joseph is counted as 2 tribes. Joseph is counted as 2 tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. And when Joseph is counted as 2 tribes, as Ephraim and Manasseh, the tribe of Levi is left out. In one case he is left in, and Simeon is left out. In other cases, when both Simeon and Levi are counted in, the 2 tribes of Manasseh are counted as 1 tribe. Joseph, there are features of Joseph that are pertinent to him in general, so that we will discuss Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh, and we will discuss Levi. So that gives us 8. Levi is a law-making tribe. Levi is mainly amongst the Jews, amongst the Jewish people. A lot of rabbis come from Levi. And Levi is also scattered amongst the other tribes. Levi can be officious, he can be pedantic, legalistic, extremist. He was Jacob, the forefather of the tribes of Israel. Jacob is also known as Israel. He warned against Simeon and Levi getting together because they are inclined to fanaticism. It's also Levi is described as a lawgiver, as someone who officiates in the temple and teaches the rest of Israel the laws and how to do things. The tribe of Levi includes the sense of Aaron, who were Kohens, priests, and other Levites. And Levi has a certain qualities not found elsewhere. Levi is a decision maker. Levi is a rabbi. In Jewish existence, we have rabbis. We have people who learn Torah all day long, and then we have people who make decisions amongst the rabbis. Not every person who learns Torah can make a decision. And in the modern world, we always come up with new things, new problems. How do we relate to certain issues? So if it's a minor matter, a run-of-the-mill, everyday occurrence, so the rabbi will know how to answer. But if it's something revolutionary, something out of the ordinary, something that has never been come up before, he will refer to a bigger rabbi, and the bigger rabbi will discuss it with other bigger rabbis, and then we'll come up with a consensus. So we'll come up with a consensus. Therefore, you have a smaller rabbis, that is rabbis who deal with minor issues, and bigger rabbis who deal with big issues. And amongst the bigger rabbis, the really big rabbis who deal with the really big issues and make the decisions that are accepted, which is also a miracle in my eyes, that are accepted as a consensus by everyone, almost automatically. How it works out is a miracle, but it does. So a good proportion of them, that is a proportion up to 50% or close to 50%, between 1/3 to 50% of these big rabbis who make these decisions turn out to be descended from Levi or from the Kohens, that is, from the tribe of Levi, even though in the general Jewish population they're only 10 or 12 or less % of the general population. In other words, they have a disproportionate representation amongst the big decision makers, and no one plans it. There's no quorum. There's no one or no thing has ever put a limit upon who can become a big rabbi and who cannot. It all depends upon the qualities of the person concerned. So it follows that. And out of the tribe of Levi, there must be an inherited factor that gives Levi an advantage in this matter, which is worth considering. We'll talk about this later. It's worth knowing. We have, in addition to Levi, we have Joseph. Joseph is divided into two tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh. Joseph also has qualities of his own that he shares with Ephraim and Manasseh. We find Joseph predominantly amongst English-speaking peoples, but is also to be found amongst Israelites in general. Joseph is a type of person who takes responsibility. He supplies the needs of others and of other nations. He's an Israelite, but he does not keep the law. This is a problem. He has lusts. He usually controls them, but sometimes they get out of hand. He does have the qualities of self-restraint, of holding himself back, of self-control. He is positive and outgoing and optimistic, and he is brave and reliable in many ways. He's working them towards others. He welcomes other people. He helps other people. He dreams, and he believes in dreams coming true, and he helps other people make their dreams come true. So this is Joseph. Out of Joseph we have Ephraim and Manasseh. We find Ephraim to be predominant amongst the British peoples. By the British peoples we mean the peoples of the British Isles, and we mean Australia and New Zealand. And even though many of these peoples have moved to the USA, we find those who moved to the USA to have been more from Manasseh than those who stayed behind. And we find this frequently in movements and demographic movements and in the history of nations. Ephraim, as we find him, as he is defined by his name and by other indicators, he is aristocratic. He is an aristocrat. He believes in hierarchy. He puts people in their place. Both the English and the Australians do this, possibly the Canadians as well. But it is very marked amongst both Englishmen and Australians, but each in a different way. But they have this quality of wanting to put the person they are talking to, they engage with, in their place, either above them, below them, alongside them, but they want to qualify him to set a person up or define where a person is to be found, as if to say. Apart from that, Ephraim he can be modest, he can be self-effacing. It's a sense of duty of doing the right thing, and he may frequently be a very positive personage. And then we have Manasseh. Manasseh is to be found amongst the USA. Manasseh is unlike Ephraim. He's not so hierarchic. He is not so aristocratic, one could say. He is an egalitarian. He believes in equality and giving everyone a fair chance and everyone having basic rights. And he believes that these rights should be abided by. He believes very strongly in the American Constitution, if he's an American. He believes in things being written down and things being drawn up and things being set out quite clearly, and of everyone having a fair chance. He has this quality. He also believes in value. Machir, the son of Manasseh, was named after the word in Hebrew meaning capitalism, or meaning price, also meaning recognition. So he wants recognition. He recognizes others. He believes in recognition. He believes in value. When he meets someone else, he will, if he relates to him, he will more be inclined to estimate or to figure how much that person may be of use to him, is of value to him, or to the cause, or to that he represents, or to the other personages to whom he feels the spokesman for. And so this is worth knowing. Like all these qualities, they can be negative, they can be positive, but they exist. It all depends upon what context and in what way they are put into practice. Benjamin is mainly found amongst the Jews, especially amongst the Sephardic Eastern Jews, but also amongst the Ashkenazim. We also find him scattered amongst the lost tribes, amongst the Normans and the Belgians and the peoples in Ireland, people in England. But as we said, mainly amongst the Jews. Benjamin also is aristocratic, but he keeps to himself. He's a bit different from Ephraim. He is sensitive. Benjamin is sensitive. He's intuitive. He's more emotional, intellectual, though he can be deeply spiritual. He has a sense of doing the right thing, of acting properly, of a correct decorum, of etiquette, but sometimes he can make mistakes. So this is a Benjamin. Then we have Dan. We find Dan in Denmark and Ireland and Wales. And there's a story in the Talmud about someone from Dan who was always saying to his fellow man, he's always arguing with him, quarrelling with him. He's also saying, let's go to the judge, let's go to court. So this person is from Dan, because the name of Dan means judgment. That is one of the meanings of the name, Dan, judgment, to judge. And so apparently you find people like that, and apparently Dan had this trait. He is also, he can be devious. He also has a negative and positive qualities. He can be very profligate, live a loose life, be a low life. But he also has strengths of his own. He has intellectual strength, spiritual strength, physical strength. He can do things that other people cannot do. He has qualities of value that are not found everywhere else. And he's also capable of acting along, of being independent, of partisan type action, of surprising people, both for the better and for the worse. Dan is a character. He is also a player. He is worth taking consideration of, because he has a value. Asher, the tribe of Asher, we find Asher in Scotland and Ireland, possibly also in Wales and in Scandinavia. Asher is happy. He succeeds. He is successful without really trying. He's just because of his innate optimism, his innate good nature. His good, positive disposition enables him to succeed without really having any special qualities. And he does this over and over again. People like him. They like to see him succeed. They like to see him help. And he has a good heart and a good nature. And he's not jealous so much of other people. And so this helps him. This helps him get along. People feel the radiation of the positive energy coming from him. And they respond to it. Dan both Dan and Asher can make good soldiers. Asher especially. Asher also may be involved in the metal trades, metallurgy, or things connected with metals, mechanics, and the like. And Naphtali, we find Naphtali dominant in Norway, and also in other areas. Also we find Naphtali in amongst the Irish and here and there in other places. Amongst the people of the Netherlands, we find some peoples from Naphtali. Naphtali is masculine. He is a masculine personage. Naphtali is masculine. The Vikings that came from Norway and Denmark, they were masculine. They are big, strong people. And we all know the stories about them, how they used to raid other nations in their long ships and with their swords and their helmets and everything about them. And this is all true. There's some truth to it, because Naphtali does have this quality, and because he has this quality, or despite having this quality, is also feminine. In other words, he can take on feminine attributes or practices otherwise associated with females, and he can get away with it. Possibly because he is a big, strong, masculine person. He gets away with this other aspect, this other side of human existence, one could say. And Naphtali is also fast. He's fast physically. He moves quickly. He also thinks quickly. And he makes decisions quickly. He is spontaneous. But he usually knows what he is doing. He's also reliable. He gets things done. He may be reluctant to take on responsibility of doing something, but once he does, he can rely on him usually to pull it through. So these are the tribes of Israel. We hope to go through each and every one of them individually. We've already gone through most of them somehow or other previously, but we shall do this again because new things come up and it's worth doing. And this is a value. This is a value, and this is something that we hope will bring pleasure and elucidation and even a spiritual awareness to you. May the Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.